Some guys will have a situation set up. They make money where their families will never have to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I grew up in a ghetto, didn't have anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Played ball all the time, went to school, church, that was it.
Where did your passion for the game come from?
In 1951, I believe, my older brother Bailey hit a shot against Anderson High School and got them into the first championship for an all-black team from Indianapolis, Indiana. And from that point on, man, I was just
In love.
Oscar Robertson.
He competed in an era with no salary ceilings, zero player leverage, and no PR machines polishing a public image daily. But in early 2025, he finally lost his patience. The footage hasn't quite hit the mainstream headlines yet, but it's already spreading like wildfire behind closed doors. It started as a whisper, a few leaked fragments here and there, until the full weight of it began to surface. Once you grasp exactly what Robertson said and his underlying motive, you'll see this isn't just an old-timer's grudge. This is something much heavier. Stay tuned, because by the end of this, your perspective on the greatest of all-time debate will be completely flipped. Consider this. LeBron exists in his own atmosphere. He stands completely alone as a one-of-a-kind specimen on the court. He's got shades of Michael, Magic, and Kobe bits, of Jerry West, and Bill Russell, all wrapped into one. If you took every legendary icon and threw them into a blender, you'd get a player like him. King James carries traits from all the greats, which is why that endless Jordan versus LeBron argument persists. Here is the reality of hardwood royalty. Most of them fade away into quiet retirement once they hang it up. They attend the galas, smile for the cameras, and keep their controversial opinions strictly off the record. Oscar Robertson doesn't follow that script. In early 2025, he sat down for what was supposed to be a low-key talk about history. No massive network or artificial studio lights, just him being raw and unfiltered, relaxed but clearly fed up with biting his tongue once LeBron James was mentioned. You have to understand the context here. The GOAT chatter was peaking again, with LeBron posting clips and giving interviews that suggested he belonged alongside the ultimate icons. And he wasn't just talking about his own generation. He was eyeing the thrones of giants like Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and Oscar himself. Robertson sat there listening closely, nodding along before dropping a bombshell. Stop measuring yourself against ghosts you never competed with. It was sharp, direct, and unapologetic. The host immediately gasped, "Wait, are you aiming that at LeBron?" Robertson didn't flinch. I'm talking to anyone putting their name next to ballers they never actually shared a floor with. That's not a gift. It's something you have to earn in battle. That clip wasn't even meant to go viral, but this is 2025. Nothing stays hidden anymore. Within 60 minutes, the footage was everywhere. From screen grabs to fiery comment sections, the internet split in two instantly, but most people missed the nuance. Nobody bothered to investigate why Robertson felt this strongly or what pushed him to finally speak out after all this time. If you think this boils down to simple box scores or championship rings, you're missing the true story. Let's talk about the pressure. The racial friction back then was oppressive and had to weigh on your mind every single day. How did that affect your psyche? How were you able to keep your eyes on the prize despite it all? How did you manage to navigate the obstacles that were unfairly placed in your path? When I first arrived at the University of Cincinnati, I was the pioneer, the first black athlete to play there. I didn't see it coming because I grew up watching Jackie Robinson and seeing plenty of African-American fans in the Cincinnati stands. I honestly believed this was a progressive and welcoming city. But when I actually enrolled well, let's pause and look at the context for a moment. Before taking a side, you have to realize what Oscar Robertson truly represents in the grand scheme of things. He was a 1960s Titan, and when people describe him as unique, they aren't using hyperbole. During the 1961-62 campaign, Robertson put up 30.8 points, over 12 boards, and 11-plus dimes every night. He averaged a triple-double for a whole season, a milestone that seemed impossible for any human to duplicate. That record stood for 55 years, until Russell Westbrook hit the mark in 2017, yet Robertson barely blinked. He didn't ask for a celebration, he just gave a subtle nod like it was all in a day's work. But the context is what really matters. He wasn't playing in a friendly or easy environment. There were no favorable rules for scorers or offensive schemes built to inflate his personal statistics. Enforcers played with a brutality that would terrify modern stars, yet he remained unstoppable every night. His influence stretched far beyond the hardwood. Robertson fought internal wars that fundamentally shifted the league's trajectory for the rest of time. Leading the players' union, he launched a legal crusade to shatter the reserve clause, the shackle that used to bind athletes to one team forever. That gamble birthed free agency, the very framework allowing icons like LeBron to swap jerseys, engineer dynasties, and dictate their own fates. Oscar Robertson paved that road. He did so by placing his entire career, reputation, and livelihood on the chopping block. So when he demands reverence or makes comparisons, it isn't rooted in some bitter sense of envy. This comes from a man who earned his seat at the table the hard way, whose shadow still looms over every modern contract. That is why this specific moment carries such a heavy, different kind of weight. His words cut through the noise, and right as you think you have a handle on the situation, the plot thickens even more. You have to weigh LeBron's perspective in this story too. To be fair, he didn't just wake up one morning seeking to offend the legends. However, a distinct trend has begun to emerge. Robertson and his contemporaries have watched this narrative build for decades, biting their tongues as the tension mounted. It didn't start with a bang, but a whisper. Digital status updates, fleeting interview soundbites, and subtle nods where LeBron ranked himself alongside titans like Jordan, Kobe, or Wilt. The phrasing was slick, avoiding any immediate outcry, but the underlying vibe was crystal clear. I am the peak. I might be the greatest person to ever touch a basketball. Look, that level of ego isn't foreign. Jordan lived it. Kobe breathed it. That fire is what fuels true greatness. But with LeBron, it feels like something more than just personal grit. It's a shift. There's a massive corporate engine driving his story. Every single post, quote, and business move is a piece of a meticulously timed marketing chess game. It lacks a raw, natural feel. It's a legacy campaign happening in real time. This is precisely where Robertson took it to a personal level. During that 2025 sit-down, he dropped a truth bomb that really stung the younger generation. He remarked, and I'm paraphrasing here, that modern stars have teams dedicated solely to policing their image and sculpting their history. Then he hit them with a much harder, more direct reality check. Back then, your reputation was forged strictly by your play on the floor. Period. That single statement flipped the entire script. This isn't just a beef about stats. Robertson is calling out the artificial framework of modern superstardom itself. He's arguing that today's pampered environment makes any side-by-side comparison with the past feel completely hollow. And here is the part everyone overlooked. Oscar wasn't merely taking shots at the current king. He was highlighting a seismic shift in culture where athletes now narrate their own legends while they're still in uniform. They curate their own immortality as it happens. To him, that's a flaw. But there was a hidden layer to his critique. Robertson actually showed some genuine, deep-seated admiration. He admitted the man has undeniable skill, but warned that talent doesn't put you ahead of legends you never faced. That's not how honor works. That sentiment says it all. This isn't a bitter old man calling LeBron a fraud. Not even close. This is Robertson, explaining that being the best requires a heavy dose of humility alongside the highlights. It's about acknowledging the history you didn't live through. In Oscar's mind, that is exactly where LeBron overstepped. That was the catalyst that finally made him break his long-standing silence and speak his mind. When those remarks surfaced in early 2025, the basketball world fractured instantly. One camp of veterans screamed, "Finally, someone had the guts." For those guys, this frustration had been simmering beneath the surface for a long time. There's a deep-seated annoyance over how modern media often ignores or trivializes the battles fought by the pioneers. Robertson didn't invent that anger. He just gave it a powerful public voice for the world to hear. One former pro noted that Oscar just voiced what retired stars had been whispering for 20 years. 2 decades of quiet resentment finally exploded. But the backlash was just as fierce. A tsunami of LeBron's loyalists fired back with a very compelling defense. They argued Robertson is trying to judge a modern king using a handbook from a totally different era. LeBron isn't just a hooper. He lives under a 24/7 global microscope. The internet never sleeps. Every single gesture is dissected by millions. His self-promotion isn't just vanity. It's a defensive strategy to protect his image and business in the digital age. Truthfully, that point carries massive merit in today's landscape. During the 60s, there were no spin doctors or social platforms manipulating how a player's story was told to the world. The king exists in a reality far removed from his predecessors, making that old-school code of silence look like a relic of a dead era. Here is the jagged pill no one wants to swallow. What if there is no villain, and both perspectives hold weight? Could it be that Robertson has truly paid his dues enough to expect a little more reverence and a lot less ego? Meanwhile, perhaps LeBron is simply mastering the optics of the modern age? If that holds true, we are stuck in a moral stalemate. Clarity was never the goal, because beneath the social media firestorms and the endless shouting matches, we are witnessing something far deeper. This conflict strikes a much heavier chord. It is the very soul of legacy itself. Even more chilling is the specter of erasure as the legends of yesterday feel their footprints being washed away by the new. It is as if their entire volume of history is being edited out or simply tossed into the bargain bin of time. This isn't a loud, planned execution of history, but a quiet, creeping cultural amnesia that happens while we aren't looking. History is being shoved into the shadows by a generation that talks about the league as if the world was created just 20 years ago. Robertson didn't pull any punches when he addressed this drift during that 2025 sit-down. He pointed out how the talking heads act like the sport's greatest peak didn't even exist before 1984. Where did the pioneers go? The men who built the floor these kids play on? That is the heart of the friction. Fair or foul, the king has ended up as the poster child for this massive generational disconnect. He didn't build the wall, but as the most towering figure in the room, he's the one everyone sees leaning against it. Every time he crowns himself the ultimate titan, legends like Robertson feel another layer of dust settling over their own monuments. That sting is purely human, coming from men who gave their blood for a game that was often more than just a sport. They were on the front lines for human dignity and civil rights, laying the very bricks of a league that now ignores them. There was a specific line from Robertson that the media glossed over, though it carried the weight of a mountain. He reminded us that they didn't just dribble, they fought the wars that made today's massive fortunes even possible. A simple nod of appreciation was all he asked for. That's not the salt of a hater, but the plea of a founding father. Regardless of your stance on the king's throne, you cannot deny the validity of a pioneer asking for his flowers. Giving the ancestors their due doesn't dim your light. If anything, it shows you're secure enough to share the stage. The true masters of any craft are usually the ones who bow lowest to those who paved the path before them. In his blunt style, Robertson is challenging LeBron to reach that level of grace, which leads us to the ultimate mystery. Could the king have truly endured the bone-crunching defense and the suffocating societal weight of that old-school era? Realistically, it's all conjecture, and anyone claiming they have the absolute truth is just shouting into the void. Turn the mirror around. Could the Big O survive the lightning speed and global sharks of the modern hardwood? Once more, the answer is a total blank space, and that lack of certainty is exactly what Robertson is highlighting. Since knowledge is impossible, pretending these hypothetical rankings are gospel truth is where the disrespect begins to rot the game. Sure, these barroom arguments are the lifeblood of the sports hype, but let's not mistake theater for reality. Constructing a whole persona based on being superior to ghosts you never shared a court with? That is the core of the insult for Robertson. It's not about box scores or jewelry, but the death of humility. It's knowing that no matter how high you soar, There are boundaries to what you can rightfully claim as yours alone. In an era fueled by self-hype and digital vanity, that brand of quiet modesty is becoming an endangered species. At this point in his twilight, the Big O isn't looking for a trophy or a seat at the table. His immortality is signed and sealed in the hall. He isn't shouting for clicks or a headline. He speaks because the fire in his belly is real, saying the things that everyone else is too afraid to whisper. The ball is now in the king's court, and whether he acknowledges the challenge or meets it with silence remains seen. This isn't just a flash in the pan, though, because Robertson did more than just poke at a superstar. He shattered the glass on a conversation the entire hoops community has been dancing around for decades. It's a reckoning over the true price of respect and the weight of being called the greatest to ever do it. To be blunt, the conclusion might be a bitter one, because comparing across different dimensions of time is a fool's errand. However, character remains the one constant, the thin line separating a skilled athlete from a revered icon. And that is the ultimate gauge Robertson is challenging the modern era to measure up against. This isn't just about the king, it strikes a chord with every witness here. Speak your truth. Does the Big O have a point? Is it impossible to surpass icons you never battled? Or does LeBron's total reign defy time and silence all critics? Fire away in the comments, because this war of words is only heating up right now. If you crave gritty, raw hoops chronicles that cut through the noise, smash like, subscribe, and spread the word to a fellow fanatic. I will see you in the next chapter.